In this beginner sculpting follow along tutorial, we're going to be creating this alien head in Blender. Now, if you've never done sculpting in Blender before and you'd like to learn how, then I definitely recommend watching my sculpting in Blender for beginners tutorial. There'll be a card up on the screen for that. And in that tutorial, I go over all the basic things that I think people need to know to get started with sculpting in Blender. Also, I'm going to have Amazon links in the video description to the tablets that I recommend, and also like the drawing glove that I recommend, so that your hand is going to be smoothly moving across the tablet. And those are Amazon affiliate links, so if you purchase something through those links, then that will help me out, but it won't cost you anything extra. And before we start, I would recommend going online, getting some reference images of the type of alien that you want to sculpt, and hopefully you have a second monitor that you could put up those reference images on a second monitor, and then you can look back at them while you're sculpting. I also have my screencast keys right down here so that you can see what buttons I'm pressing. So let's get started now. So I'm going to select everything and press X and delete it. I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add an icosphere. Now down here on the icosphere settings, the subdivisions, I'm going to turn this up to add more geometry. You can turn it up to whatever you want, just don't turn it up too high, because if you turn it up too high, it's going to start to lag your computer. I'm just going to turn it up to 6 subdivisions. I'll close this now. I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm going to go into sculpt mode. Now we need to make sure that the symmetry is turned on so that when I sculpt over here, it's going to be mirrored over there because we're sculpting a face. So to do that, just make sure this X right here is turned on, and now symmetry is going to be turned on. You can see it's mirroring it over to the other side. And then also I want to change the matte cap here. So right up here, you can click on this, click on matte cap. I added in a bunch of matte caps, and I actually made some of these matte caps. If you want to watch my tutorial on how to make your own matte caps, there'll be a card up on the screen there. You can check that out. But I'm going to use this matte cap, and I really like this red matte cap because it lets you see the shape of the sculpt very easily. And then also this widget thing here, I don't really like this. I don't ever really use it. So I'm just going to click on this button, and that'll remove it. And then just a couple more things here. I'm just going to click and drag to pull this out. So if I just pull this out, I can see all the brushes a little bit better. And then one more thing right down here, I'm going to turn on the Dyn Topo, click on OK. And if I open this up, I'm going to change the detail size to like 3. But if your computer can't handle this, if while you're sculpting it's a little too high detail and it's lagging a bit, you may need to turn the detail size up so that there's less detail. Okay, so to start off here, I'm going to press G to go to the grab brush and make my brush a little bit bigger with F. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by making the basic shape of a human head, and then after that we'll go ahead and change that to make it look more like an alien. So I'm just going to, using the grab brush, just pull this down just like that, just bring it down. Let's save this project just because we've started now, so I'm going to go File and Save As. Just save it somewhere on your computer and just give it a name and click on Save As. Okay, now I want to make the face a little bit flatter on the edges because a human face isn't really that flat. So I'm just going to push this in a little bit. Okay, just like that. And I think this is a little bit too far down, so I'll just bring this up and out just a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the clay strips brush. And up here, if I just scroll up here, you can see that there's the radius. There's these 2 buttons. They're turned on. I want to actually turn these off because this button, it's going to, if I just show you, what this does is it changes the size of the brush depending on how hard I press. And I don't really like that because then if I want to press lightly, the brush size is going to be really small. So I'm going to turn that off. And then this button right here, I'm turning this off because let's say I want to go to the grab brush with G and then make my brush really big because I usually want to have my brush really big. But then if I go back to the clay strips brush, now the brush is really small. If I had this button on, it would make all the brushes the same size. So I'd have to keep on changing the size. But if I turn this off, now it's small here. If I press G, now the brush is big. So I like to have custom sizes for each brush. So I'm going to start off by carving in some areas for the eyes. So I'm going to hold down Control and just carve in here. Oh, need to add on Dyn Topo again. Somehow it got turned off. So I'm just going to carve in there. And I want the eyes to be a little bit more to the side because this is going to be an alien. So I'm going to have the eyes coming out a little bit. And I'm also going to go right in here and just give it a little bit, kind of like a bone in there going around the eye socket. Now on the side here, I'm going to flatten this out. So I'm going to hold down Control, just kind of carve away that a bit, make that a bit flatter. Okay. Let's go back to the front here. Always keep looking around, looking at your sculpt from different angles. Let's hold down Control and kind of cut this in a bit. And then I want to have a very strong jaw. So I want to have the jaw coming down and then coming over. So I'm going to sculpt down here and make the jaw coming down and then have it coming over to the side just like that. So make that jaw very strong. You could also hold down Control and kind of cut in here to make that a little bit thinner there. And we might as well do this now. I want the back of the head to kind of be coming out a little bit big, almost like the alien is a little bit intelligent, or he's very smart. So I'm going to hold down Control here, just kind of give him that alien look with like a big head coming out there. Just bring that in, and that way this will kind of be coming out a lot. And we will add a neck there later. Okay, just something like that. That's pretty good. Okay, let's just go back over here. So I want to add where the cheekbone is, and the cheekbone's going to kind of come up and then be kind of around the eye. So I'm just going to sculpt here. Now I'm sculpting, instead of sculpting like this, I am sculpting around the form, because when I first started out with sculpting, I was just kind of going like this, like, okay, I want to make a cheekbone, go out like that. But the problem with this is it's a little bit strong and it's a bit harder to get the right shape. So let me just Control Z that. What I like to do is go around the form, and I've just kind of figured this out from doing sculpting tutorials and just practicing sculpting. I just think that's a lot better. So go around the form just like that, and then this kind of goes up here. Hold down Control, cut that in a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and do where the nose is. So I'm gonna sculpt here, kind of come out there. Now I don't want this nose to be super big. I want it to be a little bit big, but not as big as a human nose. Gonna go in there. Now if I go to side view, you can see the face is very flat. So what I'm gonna do is press G to go to the grab brush, kind of zoom in here, make my brush a little bit smaller by pressing F. Now what I wanna do is I wanna make the forehead a little bit flat and a little bit bigger. Going to pull the forehead up a little bit, pull this back a little bit here, and also bring where the nose is, just bring that back a little bit, and then more where the bottom of the nose is, bring that out a little bit more. And then the top of the head, I think I'll pull this out or up a little bit more, kind of bring out the back of the head here. Now this is a little bit pointy. I do want it to be a bit pointy, but not quite that pointy. So I'm just going to bring this back and down. All right, so I want the eyes to be coming out a little bit, so I'm going to go to the grab brush here and kind of pull this out and pull this up a little bit. Maybe pull that cheekbone in a little bit. I want to make the eyes just kind of come out a little bit, make them look a little bit more like a creature or an alien. And then the chin here isn't really the shape that I want. It's pretty long. So what I want to do is actually pull the jaw down and then pull the chin up a little bit, so it's a bit more straight. And then I want to make the eyes a little bit more on the side of the head. So I'm just going to go kind of to the top, pull that back a little bit, and then pull that out a little bit. Let's go to the clay strips brush. Gonna zoom in here, just go along here, just make that shape a little bit better. And then I'm gonna hold down Control, kind of flatten that out a bit. Now the shape of the nose is pretty weird, so let's go ahead and work with this. So what I want to do is make the ridge of the nose right here, and then hold down Control, kind of bring that in a little bit around it, have that come out here, and then I don't want it to go down that far, so I'm gonna just kind of stop it right there. Almost have like a triangle shape right here. Make that come out a little bit more on the top of the head. Let's take a look at it from side view again, just see how it's going. I can also hold down the Shift key, and that's going to make it go to the smooth brush and just smooth out a few areas here. And I think I'll smooth out this area here because it's a little bit rough here, so just smooth it out. Try not to overuse the smooth brush, but if there's some areas that are pretty rough or something, you can smooth that out. Okay, I'm going to go to the grab brush and bring this up a little bit, and then let's go to the clay strips brush and kind of play around with this. So I'm holding down Control, kind of sharpening up those edges, so going back here, cutting that in there, and then let's go back here, sharpen that back edge out, and that way the chin's going to look a lot more pronounced. All right, let's go ahead and do the neck now. So I'm just going to go over to the neck, just going to go around in circles here and start to bring out the neck. Just like that, and then I'm going to go to the grab brush with G and just bring this out a bit. So I want him to be kind of looking forward, so I'm just going to bring the neck down and kind of out back a little bit, like that, not too much, something like that. And then I'm going to go to the snake hook brush, press F, make my brush a little bit bigger, and then just start to pull that out. So I'm going to just pull out the neck, pull out the shoulders, and all that. It's a little bit too, going a little bit crazy with this. Bring this up. I want him to be kind of strong though, look kind of strong, so I want to have some pretty big shoulders. I'm going to now go to the clay strips brush now that I like the shape of that. It's good enough for the main block of it, so now we can just go in here and kind of refine that shape because it was really blocky. But the snake hook brush is really good for getting the big shapes, but it's a little bit hard to kind of shape that exactly how you want. Okay, so this problem is happening when I go down here and sculpt, it's kind of cutting in here. I think why this is happening is these two are, I guess, are just too close together, the two edges. So how I'm going to fix this is go to the blob brush, make my brush bigger, and just blob that out, and blob that out. And then now that those have a little bit more space, I'm just going to go along here with the blob brush. And now that those have a bit more space, I can go back to the clay strips and then just go along here. I'm going to hold down Control, kind of make that a little bit flatter, this whole bottom area. I want to have some big shoulders though, so I'm going to make some big shoulders here, make that coming out just like that. Yep, starting to look pretty cool. Just smooth that out a little bit, but yeah, don't overuse the smooth brush because you don't want it to just smooth away all the detail and stuff that you've added. So pretty cool. The neck needs to be way thicker, so I'm going to zoom into the back here, just kind of go along and make that neck a lot thicker. Just like that, make some big muscles right here, and then there's going to be kind of an area here where it's going back in a little bit. I want to keep this look though, where there's the big part of the head coming back there. I think it makes it look more alienish. Okay, smooth that out a little bit, add a bit more muscle in there. And on the side here too. Okay, and then there's these two big muscles that they start at the bottom of the ear, kind of where the jaw is, and come all the way down, kind of down to right here. And they're used to turn the head, kind of move the head around. So I'm just going to kind of almost draw where that is at first, just so that you get the main idea of where they are. They kind of get a bit bigger here, get smaller, and then kind of get bigger right here. So now that I've kind of drawn that out where that is, I'm going to just go around it, just sculpt there, make it a little bit bigger in this area so that it's kind of coming out more because the neck is pretty thin in this part. Make it a little bit thicker here. Yeah, just like that. And then this, make that connect a lot better. Now you can see it's kind of coming down and around sort of because that part of the neck was so thin. So I'm going to go to the grab brush, just go to an angle that works well and kind of just pull that out there on the side there so it's a little bit straighter. Let's go back to the clay strips. I'm going to actually hold down Shift and just smooth that out a little bit because it's pretty rough. That sculpting that we did in there was pretty rough, so just smooth that out a bit. And then let's add the Adam's apple, just a small one, just kind of around here, just so you can barely see it. A little indent right there, and then just kind of smooth out the edges. Holding down the Shift key, just smooth out those edges a little bit. Now, this is coming out a little bit, so I'm going to hold down Control, go in like that. Hold down the Shift key, just smooth that out a little bit. Okay, let's take a look at this. I'm going to save this again. File and save. All right, looking good. Let's just add more stuff here. Hold down Control, kind of go in there. Hold down the Shift key, just smooth that out a little bit. Okay, how's this looking? I want to add a bit more in here. Add more clay right there. Thicken that up a bit. And then just smooth that out again with the Shift key. Okay. I think I want to cut this in just a little bit, so I'm just going to hold down Control. Just cut that back a little bit more. All right, so I want to make the eyes coming out. I want to make that a little bit more apparent or stronger. So I'm going to go to the grab brush, and I think I want the eyes to be a little bit lower as well. So I'm just going to, using the grab brush, just slightly pull these around, make them a little bit lower, and then just pull them out a little bit to make the sides of the eyes coming out just a little bit more. Okay, that's looking good. Let's go back to the clay strips brush, and I think I'm going to just hold down the Shift key, just slightly smooth this out. Just slightly smooth that out as well. Okay, let's kind of work in here. So I'm going to hold down Control, kind of go in there to make that come in a bit more. And then I think I'll hold down Control and go in here because this is like in between the skull bone and the jawbone. This is kind of where the teeth would be. Just go in a little bit there. Okay, let's go ahead and add the eyes now because I think it's probably a good time to add the eyes. So let's save this again. Go back into object mode right here. And then I'll press Shift A. And I'm going to search for a UV sphere. Just going to press R, X, and then type in 90 for 90 degrees and enter. And then in object mode, I can just scale this, move it over, and just move it into one of the eye sockets, and then we'll mirror that over to the other eye. So just bring it down, bring it over, just put it into place. Don't make it too big. Probably about that's probably good. Let's shade this object smooth. And then I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'm going to Alt and select this loop here. And you deselect everything, hold down Alt and select this loop, and then hold down Shift and select this dot there in the center. And then I can press G and Y and just bring it back and then tab back into object mode. Okay, since it's shaded smooth, we need to add some loop cuts in there. So let's tab back into tab back into edit mode. Control R to add some loop cuts. Just add a loop cut right there. And then Control R, add a loop cut down there. Definitely better. I think I want the eye to be a little bit bigger though, the inside part of the eye. So I'm gonna Alt select this loop and then Shift and Alt and select this loop. Press S and scale it up a little bit. And then I'll press G and Y, just bring it back a little bit. Okay, and then I'll just add another loop cut, Control R, add another loop cut right in there. And there we go. So there's our alien eye. All right, now it's too far out, so I'm gonna bring it back in as well. Okay, so now I wanna mirror it over to the other side. So to do that, I'm gonna click over on the wrench right here, click on Add Modifier, and add the mirror modifier. Just add the mirror modifier. Now, it's not showing anything, and that's because we did this in object mode, so we need to give it a mirror object. So click on this little thing here, that's the eyedropper, and then click on the head, and now it's gonna mirror it on the x-axis over to the other side. Okay, let's click back on this and go back into sculpt mode. So I'm gonna sculpt the eyelids now. So I'm gonna press Control D, click on that, and that'll add the Dyntopo, and then I'm gonna zoom in here to do the eyelids. So let's just go along here. I'm just gonna go just along the eyelid, just build up clay. We just need something to work with right now. So just keep on building up clay till it kind of comes out, just kind of pops out there. And then go along here to the bottom eyelid, just going in there, keep on going, just popping that clay out. Now what I want to do is hold down Control, kind of go along there, kind of cut back that. So it's kind of gives the eye a little bit more room. And then also, I'm just going to go up and down, just go along there, give it a little bit more thickness, something to work with. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and smooth this out a bit because it is pretty rough right now. So I'm just gonna lightly tap and smooth that out. Okay, let's see how that's looking. He has a lot more character now. I find that, yeah, when you add the eyes and the eyelids, it just gives him a lot more character. Okay, I'm gonna zoom back in here, and I'm gonna go now to the crease brush. Make my brush a little bit bigger. Now, if I normally crease, it's gonna crease in, but if I hold down Control and crease, it's going to crease out. So I can just make those eyelids, the edges of the eyelids, just pop a little bit. So I'm just going to go around there, holding down Control, and just sharpen that up. And then I'm going to go to the grab brush and kind of reshape this because it's a little bit lumpy here. So I'm just going to reshape that a bit so it's more like an eyelid. Just zoom out, look around, see how that's looking. Okay, bring this in a little bit, maybe pull this down so they're closer together. Go to the side view because you want to make sure that the eyelid is going around the eye. So this should probably be pulled back a little bit. And then this on the front here should be pulled out a little bit more. And then right here, maybe go to top view, pull this back just a little bit. Let's go to the clay strips brush. Just zoom in here. And I'm just going to hold down Control, kind of make that go back a bit in. And then hold down the Shift key, smooth that out a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take a break from the eyes for now and work on the nose a bit. So to do the nose, it's pretty good. I want to really define that shape though, kind of like a triangle. So I'm just going to keep on doing that, go down, kind of carve this in a little bit right here so we can see the shape better. Flatten that out. I'm just holding down the Shift key and kind of going strongly to kind of smooth that out a little bit there. And then I want to bump this out a little bit more. Okay. It's looking better. I think I'll go to the grab brush, kind of pull this down so it's a little bit longer. Pull this out a little bit. And then we're going to need to add those little slits for the nostrils. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to the crease brush, zoom way in here, and just start to add in those creases there. You could even make your brush strength really strong. Just go in there, really cut that in because I want it to be pretty deep. Okay. So that's really strong because I turned the strength all up to 1. But now I'm going to change the strength back to 0.25. 0.25 is the default strength for this brush. Okay. Zoom out, see how that's looking. Pretty good. Let's go to the clay strips and just define the shape a little bit better. So I'm just going to go along here, add more clay kind of around it, and kind of make those slits a bit thinner. Make those sides coming out a little bit. You could also go around here, just add in some clay here, and then hold down Control, just come in a little bit to just define the nose a bit better. Also holding down control, I'm going to go down on the bottom of the nose and cut that in there. And then just lightly smooth that out. Now this is a little bit flat right now. I do want the nose to be pretty flat, but I think I want to change kind of some of the parts right here and here. So I'm going to go to the grab brush, bring that in a little bit more, and then maybe pull that out a little bit. Now when I get to the mouth, I don't really want to have lips. I want to have like the top of the mouth kind of coming over so that the front lip is kind of coming over the back lip and the back lip is kind of pushed back a little bit. Just a look to the alien that I think is pretty cool. So that's what I'm going to do. So I will pull this out a bit more on the front here, and then down here, pull this back a little bit, and that will help us. I'm going to save this again. Always like to save a lot because I've had my sculpts crash before and I've had to redo things. So I like to save all the time. Okay, let's go to the crease brush, and I'm going to do that where the top lip is kind of in front of the bottom lip. So I'm going to hold down control here, zoom in more, just kind of make something like that. Just a small little mouth. Really gives him character though. Okay, that's good. Let's go to the clay strips brush, and I want to add more clay on the top here so that the front lip is going to be coming out more. And then the bottom here, I'm going to hold down control, kind of cut that back. And also the chin kind of comes in here before it comes out. Kind of comes in right below the mouth, so I'm going to just carve in there, make that a little bit smaller, and hold down the shift key, smooth that out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go to side view, go to the grab brush, kind of pull this in a little bit more and pull this down a little bit and smooth that out a bit more. Okay, let's go back to the clay strips. I'm going to hold down control and really cut in there and really just define that more. Just carve away some of that right there. And I want to make the mouth go back a lot more, so I'm going to go to the grab brush, pull this whole thing, including the bottom of the jaw, just pull it back more. Okay, maybe pull it down a little bit, just a little bit more. Okay, let's go back to the crease brush, and now that I've kind of cut in there, I'm going to crease it to make that a lot more strong, and this is kind of the actual mouth. And then if I hold down control, like what we did earlier, hold down control, and add that crease, it's going to sharpen that up. So now you can see kind of the look that we have here. And also add just a little bit of a crease down in there. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I want to go to the grab brush with G and kind of pull that out a little bit more. And then I do want to add a little bit of a bottom lip just to show that that's there. So I will go to the clay strips, just go along here and just make that bottom lip bump out a little bit. Okay, and then make the top lip bump out a little bit too, kind of farther down. Okay, just slightly smooth that out. Maybe even go way in here and cut back in there just a little bit. I think the ears give it a lot more character, so let's also go ahead and do the ears. So I want to have some little pointy ears kind of right here. So let's go to the draw brush, make my brush a little bit bigger. Just zoom into where the ear would be and just go along here. I don't want the ears to be too big, but something like that. So just keep carving out, and then once we carve that out far enough, we'll carve back in so that the ear isn't as attached to the head. Okay, so there we go. I'm gonna go to the grab brush, kind of go to the top here, just pull that out a lot more and bring that back, and probably up a little bit more too. Okay, so now let's just play around with the shape a bit better. So I'm gonna go to the clay strips, just carve this in because it's coming out a little bit too far, and then connect that to the head by adding some clay in there. And then on the back here, we're going to need to cut that in because it needs to be more defined where the ear is and where it's not. So cut that in, just carve back there to really separate the ear from the head. You could also use the crease brush right here, and just kind of go in there to really define that. Pretty cool. I want to have the ears coming up a bit more. Go back to the grab brush, pull that up, and press it a little bit more towards the head. Okay, look around, that's pretty good. The neck is still really thin back here, so we should probably go ahead and thicken that up. So I'll go back to the clay strips, and I'm gonna add a lot more clay here to thicken up that neck. And right here, this was coming out a little bit much. So I'm just carving that back by holding down control and then holding down the shift key and smoothing that out a little bit more. Okay, there we go. The neck is a lot thicker now. That just looks a lot better. You could also add some more here. Add a little bit more muscle right there. And then I do want to really make those shoulders stronger. So let's go G for the grab brush. Kind of bring those shoulders up and out a bit to make them a bit stronger looking. Maybe make that back come up a bit. And then let's go back to the clay strips and just kind of define the shoulder a little bit more. So I'm kind of coming in here, and then right up here I'm going to kind of come out more, and then back here go in a bit. So it looks more like a shoulder. Okay, take a look at it. Okay, so I want to work a bit more on the jaw because I want to have a really big muscle right here for a jaw muscle. So I'm going to add a lot more clay here to kind of build that up, make him look a bit stronger, and then just smooth that out slightly. Okay, that's definitely better, but I need to smooth it out more. Add a bit more muscle here, kind of thickening up some things. And then I think I want to make this jaw a little bit flatter and a little bit wider. So I can hold down Control here to make the jaw flatter, and then just carve around here to make that a little bit wider. Okay, let's work with this because this is looking good, but it needs to be defined a little bit more and also smoothed out a bit. So I'm going to hold down Control, go in here, and then go around here, make that just a little bit thicker there. So this bone here kind of comes down and then comes into, if I just show you, kind of comes into this right here. So I want to have the skin kind of curving around the bone here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more right there, and then just hold down the Shift key and smooth that out. Maybe hold down Control, carve back just a little bit, and then smooth that out. I think it needs to be a little bit wider. You can see that kind of goes in where I want it to go out a little bit more. So just go around here, just like that, and then hold down the Shift key, smooth that out. And then this whole thing, it's pretty rough, so just barely press with your pen, just to very lightly smooth that out. I'm going to hold down Control here, bring that in a little bit, and then smooth that out there. I want to define it coming in here a little bit more, so I'll press F, make my brush really small with the clay strips. Hold down Control, cut in right here, just make that a little bit stronger. Maybe add a little bit more here. Hold down Control, go in there. Okay, that's better. Okay, let's make a little bit of a brow. So I'm going to just kind of go in circles like this, and then go on the side, bump that out a little bit, smooth that out a little bit. Alright, that's looking pretty good. I want to go back over to the ear now and just work on the ear a little bit. So I'm going to go along here, bring the side of the ear out more, just going along there, and then hold down Control and kind of carve into the ear, carve way back in there. Make sure you're not carving too far. You can see what it's doing here. So if I carve in here too much, it's going to kind of do weird things out here. So I'm just going to fix that by going along here and then smoothing that out a bit. I'm going to go to the crease brush and go in there just to sharpen up that edge. Going all the way around here, just sharpening up that edge inside the ear. So I'm just going to go around, just lightly smooth things out if I see anything that needs smoothing. Smooth that out a little bit. Right in here, looks a little bit weird, just smooth that out just a little bit. Make sure you're not, make sure you're not losing the shape, because if you smooth it out too much, you're going to lose the shape. So just kind of go along, kind of with, like this, I want to flatten this out so I can smooth that out pretty strongly. But then right here, kind of go along the shape of it as you're smoothing it, holding down the Shift key. And that way you're not going to get rid of the shape of the sculpt. Okay, let's work on the neck a bit more because these muscles here are pretty big. They're a little too big. So I'm going to go to the clay strips, make my brush a little bit bigger, hold down Control, kind of cut these back a little bit more and then smooth them a little bit because they're a little bit strong right now and not quite the shape that I want. So I'm going to make them smaller and smooth that out to make them less defined. And then right back up here, I'll go along here, give it a little more skin right underneath here. Okay, hold down the Shift key, flatten that out a little bit. Just make that Adam's apple a little bit stronger by kind of going out like that and then holding down the Shift key, smoothing in a little bit. Okay, let's see how that's looking. Pretty cool. And then there's a little indent right below the nose but above the mouth right in here. So I'm going to add that to this guy. So hold down Control, go in there, just like that, and then use the shift key. I actually want to smooth that out because it's a little bit too big right now, so just smooth that out a bit more. Let's save this again, file and save. Okay, this is really looking good. We're starting to get more into the subtle things, so I want to make this nose a little bit more out. So I'm going to go to the grab brush, just kind of pull that out just a little bit. Just check over anything, see if there's anything that you want to change. I think the back of the head here, I'll pull it up and just out just a little bit. But I think we're almost ready to get into the wrinkles of the skin, so let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to use the crease brush, make my brush really small, and I think I'll start down here by just going along here and making a crease right there. Maybe make another one there, and another one here. This really adds a lot more detail and makes the sculpt look a lot more interesting. So I think I'll add a crease here, and also maybe add some very light creases, some subtle creases in here. You could also go along there. And then right in here, maybe add a crease there. And then where the eyelids are, we could do that. So little crease in there, kind of coming out. Maybe add in some little creases right here. Also crease this in here to really sharpen up those edges there on the eye. Give him some wrinkles and bags under his eyes. Let's go back down to where the jaw is and add some creases in here, really small. And then moving up to the cheek area and the side of the head, add some creases. I think maybe some creases right here. And we could also use the crease brush to kind of go in here, sharpen up that a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go to the front bottom of the chin, go along here, add some creases, some wrinkles in the skin right there. And then I'm going to go up to the forehead and add some wrinkles in here. I think adding kind of a shape like that looks pretty cool. Smooth that out a little bit so it's not too strong. Okay, let's go to the back of the ear. Add a little bit of creases in here. Okay, now I want to have the ear a little bit pointier. So I'm going to go to the grab brush, zoom way in here, and just pull that out a little bit. Make my brush smaller. Make that just kind of come out. There we go. I'm going to go back to the crease brush and add some more wrinkles. So some wrinkles down here, some wrinkles over here. Smoothing those out a little bit so they're not too strong. And then maybe on the shoulder here, adding some wrinkles, kind of coming around the shoulder muscle. Okay, I'm going to go around the nose. So zoom into the nose, add some creases around there, and then some creases up here, coming down. All right, looking pretty cool. Really starting to look like a alien now. I think I'll add a bit of a crease here and a crease over here. And then on the back here, I'll add a little bit of crease here and add a little crease there. And then right here, I think I'll add a bit more of a crease coming down, kind of from where the nose is. Kind of like when you smile, there's that crease there. Just add a little bit of a crease there. Not too big because he's not smiling, but kind of a worn old crease in the skin. All right, now just one last thing before I call this finished. I want to give him a bit more of a unique pose, and I want to break the symmetry so he's not mirrored exactly. So I'm going to turn off the symmetry first, and then I'm going to go to the grab brush, make my brush really big, and first I'm just going to change how high these different shoulders are. So I think this shoulder right here, I'll just pull it down a little bit, and then this shoulder here, maybe having it coming forward and up a little bit, maybe pull this shoulder out a little bit. It's subtle, but it will help to make the sculpt look cooler. You can see he already looks different now because the symmetry is broken. Okay, and then let's zoom in here, maybe change the shape of his face a little bit, change his expression a little bit. Okay, now zooming in here, I can pull one of the eyelids maybe down or pull that up a little bit. So he's kind of squinting on one side, make that eyelid smaller. And also the ears definitely can change where the ears are. So I think this ear I'll pull out a bit, and then this ear maybe have it up a little bit more and a little bit more towards the head. Pull this up a little bit. He's kind of almost like he's sneering a little bit. Like, her. And definitely playing around with the eyebrows too can really help. So maybe I'll have this one coming up a lot more. All right, so now that we've changed that symmetry a little bit, we can go back to the crease brush and make some subtle changes with the symmetry turned off, like add some more creases or things, just to make him look a little bit more interesting. So I think I'll add a crease here, something in the skin, maybe an injury or something. I'm not quite sure if he's a alien soldier or whatever he is, but maybe he's an alien farmer and he's been hard at work farming the land, and maybe his skin's a little banged up. I want to add a little bit more creases here on this eye to make it look like it's a bit more beat up. So adding some creases there, coming down. All right, and I'm going to call this sculpt finished. So let's go back into object mode now. I'm going to go back into layout here, and then let's select everything, and I'm going to shade them smooth. You can go object and shade smooth. And now let's just render this out, make a final image. So I'm going to press Shift A. I'm going to search for a camera, and then just move the camera to where you want it to be, and then I'm going to press Control Alt number pad 0. If I can reach it, my keyboard is way over here, and that'll jump the camera to where we are by pressing Control Alt number pad 0. So now what I can do is press G and double tap Z, just kind of move that around, press G and bring this around. You can also double tap R, and that'll kind of bring the camera around. Now the movement is very sensitive, so if I hold down Shift, it'll make the movement a lot less sensitive. I can just move that around. I think I want it to be looking slightly down at the alien, so I think I'll move that up a bit more, move that in a little bit more. And then I'm leaving a little bit of room right here so that I can duplicate the alien's sculpt and just bring it over to the other side so we can get a different view of the alien. Okay, that's looking pretty good. If I go to the render engine here, I'm going to be using the workbench, and that way we can just render out like a matcap preview. So if I press Z and move up, you can go into rendered mode, and then you can just play around with these settings. So I'm going to click over here on matcap. I'm going to change it to the matcap that I like to use. Go up here, this one. Okay, let me go down here. I want to turn on cavity, and that way you can see there's this ridge and valley. And if I turn the ridge and valley all the way up, the parts that are coming out are going to be lighter, and then the parts that are going in are going to be darker. So I think it makes it look pretty nice. And then I'm going to turn on outline just because I like the look of that. And also I'm going to turn on the shadow. Now if I play around with the shadow, I can change how bright and dark it is. And then if I click on the gear here, I can drag this and it's going to rotate where the shadow is. So maybe I'll rotate it to like that. Okay, I'm going to click and select the alien, and then hold down Shift and click and select the eyes. And then I'll press Shift D to duplicate, bring it over, and then press R and Z, rotate it over so I can get a different view of the alien. Move that over a bit. Now I don't quite like how the shadow is working because it's making it a bit dark here. So I'm going to go back to the shadow, rotate that so that the face here is a bit more lit up. And now I'll just select the camera again. I'm going to change the dimensions a little bit because they're not really quite the right size for the alien. So if I just change the X and Y resolution, I'm going to pull the Y out, make it bigger, and then press G and double tap Z, bring that in. There we go. Now if I pull this out, you can see that there's this percentage. I'm going to change it to 200. So instead of it rendering this size, it's going to be rendering that double. So now if I press F12 and render this out, it should render pretty quickly, and you can see it's a pretty high quality image, so I can see the sculpt really well. So once you're happy with this render, you can go Image and then click on Save As. I'm just going to save this as alien.png and save this image. So there we go. There is the finished alien sculpting tutorial. I hope this tutorial was helpful. I hope you were able to follow along. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in a future video.